You open your eyes for the very first time. And here we are. You've just been a full-blooded Viltrumite on the planet Viltrum. Congratulations. Several tour figures, dressed in battle armor, check your vital signs in the monitors. As they decide your fate. Yep, he's strong, says the doctor. Maybe it's just a regular guy with a stethoscope. Who knows? You're a baby, it's hard for you to tell. Your parents, who are also still in their uniforms, breathe a sigh of relief. You see, the Viltrumites have a strong policy about childbirth, which means that only the strong children are allowed to survive. The rest star well. Don't worry about the rest. This means that you get to go home to your parents. But Vulture, my baby, don't really get to watch Coco Melon with their stuffed animals. Instead, they place you in a gravity chamber times the strength of Earth, where every muscle in your tiny body is forced to adapt to intense pressure. Your cries echo of Steel Wars as you try to lift your head, but no one comes to complex you. On Viltrum, weakness will never be rewarded, even as a baby. Now that you've made it to 2 years old, you're already showing signs of the power within you. The average fully grown Viltrumite can lift at least 400 tons. But as a toddler, you're not quite there yet. You're quite unquite. Toys are really just heavy-weighted blocks, and you're doing pretty well. With them, you've also started showing signs of levitation already, which means your fight training begins immediately. Your parents watch your progress like hawks, and carefully measure each metric to make sure you don't fall behind. They don't help you up if you stumble. Instead, they watch from a distance with their arms crossed as you struggle to get back onto your feet. A true Viltrumite stands on their own, always. Thanks, Dad. Everyone in the species are raised as warriors from birth, so Viltrumarts have no comprehension of what genuine parental love is like. Now, at 5 years old, you seem to be holding up well so far. So it's time for you to be thrown into the Juvenile Combat Initiative. It's full of the kids your age, but this isn't a playground. It's a battlefield for children. Basically, just a toddler fight club. On your first day, you match it against a boy who's a little older than you and twice the size. There's only one way to win these matches. Incapacitate your opponent. Could luck out their kid. As the match begins, Laro charges at you and knocks you off your feet. Those extra years of condition have given him an advantage, but around these parts, there's no excuse. Get up. One of your instructors growls. You pull yourself up again and drive your tiny fist into Laro's When he stumbles backwards, you take the opportunity to knock into the ground. The crowd of children and parents erupts into applause. At 5 years old, you've earned their respects. For now, the Viltrumites believe that they're the most superior being in the universe, destined to rule over everyone else. So every part of this society exists to breed the perfect soldiers. To feed this galactic takeover, your first day of school on Viltrum is pretty straightforward. Every subject ties back to the Empire's ideals. History class only exists the glorified past conquest. Science focuses on weapon development, and even mathematics is taught through the perspective of warfare. Logistics. Your PE class is really just combat training with a side of cardio. Every failure is punished. You better be perfect, kid, or you're not gonna make it much longer. School still has some memories that'll stick with you forever, though. In history class, you're now old enough to learn about the events of the Purging, when Viltrumites called the weak from their population to ensure only the strongest survive. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, before they set off to conquer the stars, Wilton was rocked by a horrific civil war. This war began when Viltrumized their barrage and believed in their natural superiority, got together and decided to kill all the weak members of the species. Anyone who opposed them or deemed unfit were executed in a global bloodbath called the Purging. Years later, the planet lay in ruins and half the population had died. But at least the weak had been eliminated. From that point on, Viltrumites adopted a brutal doctrine of eugenics, meaning only the strong were allowed to survive on Viltrum. Was rebuilt by its superhuman population. A planet targeted for assimilation would be offered a chance to willingly join the Empire in patronage. Those that refused were destroyed by an army of flying supermen. It's a tough lesson to swallow as a kid, but it's important to your survival that you understand. You may no longer be a baby, but it's never too late to abort you. Now, at 10 years old, your training escalates. You sent on your first observation mission to a freshly conquered planet. As you fly down, the air is thick with the scent of burning rubble, and the sky is ablack with smoke. Villages burn and cities lying ruins. You follow your squad leader, a towering figure named General Koroff, as he surveys the aftermath of the conquest. He sets you squad down by the captured rebels, kneeling in chains with their heads bowing in defeat. Koroff points at the prisoners. Decide their fate, he says with a voice devoid of any emotion. Whoa, what? What does this have to be on you? Your heart pounds as you look at their terrified faces. But you know, or too well, that hesitation is dangerous and a form of weakness. With trembling hands, you point to the execution squad. Korif nods, and the prisoners, and no more. That night, for the first time, and the last time in your life, you lie awake, haunted by the memory. Don't get used to it though, because we don't do guilt here. 15. You're giving your first solo mission. Leading a squad to raid a rebel outpost. It's a relatively small operation, but it's a test of your leadership capabilities. And you better be able to pull this off. Cause you remember what happens to failures. It's on a nearby planet. The same way anyone else on Viltrum gets across the galaxy. You don't need rockets or teleporters. Viltrumites can fly through space and hold their breath for several weeks. They also move at incredible speeds. So hopping into spacecraft would just be inefficient. Your team descends on the outpost, but things go wrong almost immediately. The rebels are better armed than expected, and the simple skirmish devolves in the chaos. You manage to turn things around and complete the mission by destroying their outpost, but not without a cost. Several of your squad mates are killed, with their bodies left behind as you retreat. When you return to Viltrum, the loss of life is gloss over. A victory is a victory. Your instructor says, patting you on the back. What a wholesome life lesson. At 16, the accumulation of everything you've ever trained for arrives. The Viltrumite trials, without exaggeration. It's the biggest event of your life. These aren't ceremonial rites or symbolic tests. They're brutal challenges designed to weed anyone out who doesn't embody the Empire's ideal, and anyone who is deemed weak. Failing here doesn't just mean humiliation, it means death. This is your last chance to prove you deserve to survive. Your trials begin on a distant moon, with gravity 3 times the strength of Viltrum. You and 30 other candidates are dropped with nothing but the clothes on your backs. The goal is simple. Survive for a week while completing a series of grueling challenges. But just surviving isn't enough. You have to dominate. The first task is a race across the moon's rocky surface. The terrain is jagged and unstable, and every step sends sharp, painful vibrations through your legs. You feel the gravity's pull with every movement. And after just a few minutes, your muscles scream for relief. But there is no relief. Falling behind isn't an option. Those who do are left for dead. The bodies playing by the unforgiving landscape. As you cross a ridge, you see the next challenge. A combat arena carved into the ground. The instructors announce that the top 20 will advance to the next round. You may make it in time, but barely. You turn to face your first opponent, Laro, who's admittedly a lot bigger than he was back in the toddler fight club. He's taller, broader, and has a reputation of cruelty. He dodges first swing and counter with a blow to the dropping him immediately. The fight is over in seconds. The instructors not approving, but their expressions remain cold. There's no praise here, just acknowledgement that you've done what's expected. But a third day, I need 12 candidates. The trials shift focus the teamwork. An ironic twist given the Viltrumites' emphasis on individual strength. You're paired with 2 others. Corvin, a quiet but fiercely skilled fighter, and Vetra, an impulsive recruit with a talent for improvisation. Your task is to infiltrate a simulated rebel stronghold and eliminate its defenders. The simulation is anything but simple. The quote-unquote defenders are seasoned Viltrumite soldiers, tasked with stopping you at any cost. As you approach the stronghold, Vetera rushes ahead, ignoring your orders. She's caught in an ambush, and Corvin pulls her back just in time. Through review, regroup, and devise a new strategy. You take the lead, coordinating an assault that outmaneuvers your defenders. It's messy and chaotic, but it works. By the end of the exercise, you've secured the stronghold and eliminated the targets. Back at the trial ground, the instructors debrief your group. They commend your leadership, but criticize Vetera's impulsiveness. A team is only as strong as its weakest link. One of them says, fixing over the steely gaze, Vetera's jaw tightens, but she doesn't respond. The lesson is clear, even teamwork and Viltrum is not a virtue. The last test is the most brutal of all. Are free for all, where only the strongest will emerge victorious. The instructors release you into a sprawling battlefield. Amazing cliffs, caves, and treacherous terrain. There is one objective: be the last one standing. First few hours of Chaos Alliance is form and dissolve in minutes. As candidates betray one another for the chance to survive. You stay on the move, avoiding direct confrontations while picking off weaker opponents. By the third day, only 4 of you remain. Corvin, a candidate named Tarek, and a brutal fighter known simply as the Beast. Tarek and the Beast form an uneasy alliance, forcing you and Corvin to do the same. The four of you clash in a brutal skirmish. Every blow is shaking the ground beneath your feet. Tarek is the first to fall, his chest caving on the Corvin's relentless assault. The Beast turns on you his fist like hammers. You managed it outmaneuver him, lending a blow to his throat that sends him staggering. Corvin sees his opportunity and finishes him off. Now, it's just you and Corvin. For a moment, hesitate. The two of you have fought side by side, saved each other's lives, and forged a bond in the heat of battle. But bond means nothing here. With a swift, decisive strike, you knock him unconscious. The instructors declare you the victor when the trials are over. You're one of the only 3 candidates who survive. You're bloodied, exhausted, and battered, but you've proven your worth. The instructors present you with the insignia of a Viltrumite warrior, a simple England that carries the weight of everything you've endured. You've earned this, one of them says, their tone as cold as ever. Don't make us regret it. By your mid-20s, war has become second nature. Every day feels like a repetition of the last. Descend upon a planet, crush its defenses, pacify its population, and move on to the next. The galaxy is vast, and the Viltrumite Empire demands total dominance. You barely have time to process one battle before you thrust into another. You also now have a mustache, and so does every other village might men. It's legally required by the government that all men have a mustache. Not like Australia. By your 40s, the cracks in the Empire's facade become harder to ignore. The conquests continue, but the resistance grows fiercer. Billions that wants to have days to crush, now dragon for months. You stopped 18 years ago though. Older you become, the more powerful you grow. And the slower you age, you can live for thousands of years. In your 50s, you return home from that week's conquest after receiving word that your father has died. The official report says he passed her in a training exercise, but whispers suggest something darker and active. Defiance punished by the Empire. At his funeral, they didn't mention anything about his personal life. Only the things he did to serve the Empire. They just relive his glory days as a military leader. The doubt sort of plagued you for years. Resurface, was he truly a loyal servant of the Empire? Or did he question the path led out? Shortly after your father's funeral, you were summoned to a meeting with the High Command. They congratulate you on your years of service and inform you that it's time for you to take on a new role. In the Empire's master plan, reproduction. They think your genetics are exemplary, and that it's your duty they carry on that strength to the next generation, except that generation won't be born here. You are given a fire with information about a resource-rich planet called Corvallis. You see, one of the High Command's most effective war strategies is sending scouts across the universe to infiltrate the world, and most importantly, reproduce with a member of the dominant local species. Viltrumite genes are extremely adaptive. They're so potent that a Viltrumite can reproduce with almost any other race in the universe, humanoid or not. And their genes were almost completely the genetics of the non-Viltrumite parent, making the resulting offspring almost purely Viltrumite themselves. One of the few rules of this reproduction program are that you're only allowed to procreate with genetically similar species. The more naturally compatible the mate's race, the sooner the offspring will inherit all of the standard village abilities. Humans of Earth, for example, are so genetically close to Viltrumites that a human-Viltrumite hybrid is nearly identical to your pure-blooded Viltrumite and will eventually become just as powerful. But why are they doing all this? To create more Viltrumites and take over that planet. Looking at the file, the population of Corvulus is humanoid. Very good, and their world has been deemed the prime for genetic integration. Your mission is to establish yourself among the Corvulans, produce offspring, and solidified Ultramart influence on the planet. This feels like a break from the endless battles. They'll live a normal life and start a family. For Garlic, that sounds almost easy. But this isn't about building a family. It's about the Empire's agenda. The children you father won't belong to you. That belong to Viltrum when you're arriving cordless. You see, it's quite beautiful. Not that you'd ever admit that. The Corvulans are peaceful people, and their culture is centered on community art and harmony with nature, which is pretty different to everything you've ever known. Your initial interactions are all very designed calculated to gain their trust. You present yourself as a traveler seeking refuge. It's a pretty good play when it comes to Viltrumite infiltration. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Over time you integrate into their society. For me, bonds and learning their ways. Despite your mission to destroy them from the inside out, you can't help but admire the Corvulans. Their values just so different from the Viltrumite agenda. Years from now, we're coming to either conquer or destroy this planet. But for the first time in your life, you begin to experience peace. Eventually, you fulfill your duty and form a partnership with a Corvulan woman named Alara. Viltrum despites a thought from an early age to view their